Okay, so real quick, just wanted to touch on something important to understand, which is binary data in N8N. A lot of times when you're downloading something like a file or an image, it's going to come through as binary, and it's a lot different the way that we can pass through and reference binary data in N8N. So I just wanted to show a real quick example of how this works and why it's important to understand. And you've probably seen allusions to this or other tutorials where we have binary data and we have to handle it a little differently. But let me just show you a quick example. So let's say we're going to start this workflow with a manual trigger, just so we can test stuff, right? And then what we want to do is we're going to go to Google Drive and we're going to download something. So let me come to download file. We have our stuff connected, I'm assuming already. And what I'm going to do is we're going to download from a list. So I'm going to grab an image. Okay, so we'll grab this image. Also, if you're going to do PDFs, it's probably going to come through like this, and I'll show that in a sec. But anyways, here's an image. We're going to download it, and what happens is it's going to come through over here as binary. And so typically when you're working in N8N, you know, on the left is your input, the middle is your configuration, the right is your output. Usually you have schema, table, and JSON. So we have schema, table, and JSON. But you can see those are empty, and we have a new one called binary, which is basically this is the image, and it's a binary file. So what that means is, if we were to add another one, so let's say we're going to do a Gmail send a message. If we wanted to send a message to myself, I'm just going to fill in some stuff so we can see what this looks like. Oops, test. We couldn't send this binary in the message as a test. The way that you could typically, you know, drag over a variable and from this left-hand side and send that as the message. You can't do that with binary. What happens is it's in a field over here. It's in a binary field called data. And so like if we wanted to send this, we could do it attachments. We could add an attachment. And this is looking for a binary field to send as an attachment, which is called data. So I can hit test step. We can see that I messed up. So I'm going to change that. Now we're going to hit test step. We should see we get a success message. And real quick before we go look at that, let's say I change this name to picture. And we hit test step. It's not going to work because there's no binary field called picture. It's called data. So that's why we had this called data. Anyways, let's go to the email real quick and let's look at that. So now we have the test email and we have the actual binary image. Cool. So the way that this worked is because this thing is too big. Let me make this smaller. So because the binary was right here, it was immediately before we sent it, it worked. So binary has to be like immediately before a node you want to use it in. If we were to grab a node right here, and this was going to be, you know, email, I want to say, hi, Nate. We'll test this step. And now we try to send this email where we have the message. Let's just say we're doing this dynamic, okay? So we're going to drag in the email. So now it's going to be sending this variable, which is saying hi, Nate. And we no longer on this left-hand side see the binary, right? So if we tried to send this, what's it going to say? The operation expects the node's input data to contain a binary file called data, but there's nothing there. So if we remove this and we connect it right back up immediately to there, now we have the binary once again. So that's kind of the way that binary can be a little bit weird in N8N. Let me now show if we were to download a PDF. So let me look for a PDF right here. I think I can, policy and FAQ document, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna download this. This is a PDF. We can see now it is, or it's actually a doc. So we have a doc, we have policy and FAQ information, and it's stored as binary. We have no other data here. And we could send that in this email, right? So we have data, it's referencing this field called data. We'll send that over and we will go check on this email real quick. And there we go, we have our Google Doc. Now, if you want to get that text, there's a few things you could do. So the first thing we could do is like extract from file, where we have convert binary data to JSON. So we're going to extract from a PDF. Input field is data. I know this is a doc, but I think this should work. Okay, invalid PDF structure. So we would actually need a PDF. Let's see if there's a doc one. No. Okay, so here's what I'd do then. I would either, first of all, just change this to a PDF somehow, and then I'd extract it from a PDF. Or what you can do is we can add an option and we can do a Google file conversion. So we're going to basically, as this file is being downloaded from Google Drive's API, we're just going to convert it on the way in. So Google Docs, we're going to convert that to a PDF, as you can see. We can ignore these other ones for now because we're working with a Google Doc and we want it to be a PDF. I hit test step. What happens is now it comes over here as a PDF extension rather than a doc extension. And then I can go ahead and do that extract, convert binary data to file, extract from PDF. We're referencing data, and now we're going to get just the text back from that document. As you can see, policy FAQ, Tech Haven, all this kind of stuff. And that is what we see. Oh, didn't mean to actually open the actual Google Doc, but we can see it's policy and FAQ and store name is Tech Haven. So that is how that works with binary data. And it's important because there are times when maybe you're at the end of an automation and you want to reference binary data, but what you're going to have to do is re-download it in. And you've probably seen that in a few of my automations already, like the product videography one or the invoice one I did a while back. This is just something that you have to understand is, okay, do I have JSON data or do I have binary data? And if I have binary, I have to be a little bit more strategic around how I download stuff and how I reference it. So one other thing about binary is it can also be a little bit more difficult to send over through like a webhook or through an HTTP request. I don't want to get too into the weeds right now, but there are still ways to send over binary data in an HTTP request. Definitely check out my product videography video if you want to see. That one was a mess with binary and I had to do some creative things. But what you can do here is when you're sending over a body, you can send form data and you can send n8n binary file, and you would just say like, what's the input data field name of this binary? Don't want to get into that right now because it may just be confusing you, but we have JSON data, we have binary data, and a cool thing you can do is you can do file conversions here. So I think we can even do a Google Doc rather than converting it to a PDF, as you see here, PDF. We could try to just convert it straight from a Google Doc to text. So now we have a text file, as you can see. So that's just some stuff I wanted to show you, especially if you're working with Google Drive. And yeah, let's move on to the next part of this course.